Okay, so the disclaimer in this video is that the title of it is actually not 100% accurate. What I wanted to call the video is the first person, or really the only person that I've ever been afraid of who has had dementia. But I didn't call it that because people on the internet are crazy, and I didn't want someone reading that title and going, oh, Rachel's afraid of people with dementia and not everybody's scared, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't want somebody reading it and just making a judgment about it. So this story is about the only person that I've ever worked with dementia who has really kind of freaked me out. And I tell this story because I will sometimes get the very naive question, hey, have you ever been afraid of someone with dementia? Or someone will say to me, oh, you work with people with dementia, isn't that scary? No, it's not at all scary. I love working with people with dementia. People with dementia are not scary or frightening or dangerous or anything like that, except for this one lady. Okay, so the story about this lady, a few years ago, I worked at a senior living community. It was assisted living personal care home. And this woman moved in there with her husband, which can sometimes be awesome and sometimes it's terrible. And in this case, it was terrible because this husband was not a great guy and she had a lot of issues. And together, this was like the kind of couple who probably should have divorced like years ago, but didn't, and have just stuck it out for reasons that we aren't sure about. And so they moved into the community together and they both had dementia. Now, when I first met this couple, I thought, oh, well, he seems like he's a little bit difficult, but she seems sweet as pie. And generally, she was. I'm going to say 60% of the time, she was a peach. You know, she was great. But when she got into a mood, she was probably a solid moderate stage of dementia. When she got into a mood, she would come after me. And I don't say this lightly. She would track me down. And the reason she would track me down is because she decided that, or her brain decided that I was having an affair with her husband. That's what her brain decided for her. So she would track me down. And this woman was a very mobile, and this is like a really petite lady. I mean, she was really short and thin and like not at all looking like she was a threat, but oh man, she would come up and she would get in my face and she would say horrible things to me like, I'm gonna claw your eyes out, stuff like that. And normally she was fine, so like 60% of the time she was really nice to me. But when she got in a bad mood, it didn't matter who else was on the floor. If she saw me, all hell broke loose. And the woman who was my boss at the time, who we'll call Cindy. Cindy didn't really understand dementia care. She thought she did, but she didn't really. And I would call her and say, look, Cindy, I can't work on the floor right now. This woman is having a really bad day and she's freaking out. Someone else needs to come and work with her. And the problem was I was the director of the floor. So I was essentially always there. And my boss would say, well, you need to be able to deal with this. So my boss would come down, and this woman looks nothing like me. So she would come down, and the resident that we had who was accusatory would say, oh, and she'd be so happy to see my boss and like really sweet with her. And Cindy would say to me, well, Rachel, you're supposed to be really good at dementia care. You know, you should be able to handle this. And I was like, this has nothing to do with my ability to handle or not handle this dementia care situation. This woman does not like my face. And so occasionally, you know, there will be people who really love you. There will be people who really hate you. And this is the one lady, this is the one resident, person, anybody with dementia that I could not work with some of the time because she thought I was somebody else. And I mean, who knows? Like, I probably looked like a woman that this guy had an affair with. I don't know. But the bottom line, I guess, is people with dementia are not scary. This woman was a special, unique case. And sometimes people just don't like your face. Like, sometimes you look like somebody that they don't like. And you got to send somebody else in. And that's what I did. I could send anybody else on the floor in to work with her. And it was totally fine. But when it was me, there was a problem.